Okay guys, so for today's video, what I want to talk about is this concept of training that I utilize. And one of the biggest mistakes that people are making are they're training too heavy at the start of their training cycles. So one of the things I've learned over the years that results in the best progress possible is starting your training cycle very, very light. And this is kind of one of those situations where you have to check your ego at the door, put your pride to the side, and realize that in the course of a 10, 12, 15-week training cycle, the best results and the best peak is going to be achieved when you start out with very light weights. And you're going to be able to build that foundation of volume. You're going to be able to take shorter rest times at the beginning of the training cycle, and you're going to be able to focus on speed to a greater extent. So there's a lot of advantages to doing so, and it's tricky for a lot of guys. You think once you're coming off of a meet or a previous training cycle, you think that you need to start a lot heavier for the next one, which would make sense. Like, that all adds up. I get it. This is kind of counterintuitive to that. But I'm telling you, time and time again, I've seen this where you need to start lighter, and it's going to result in higher numbers at the very end. And I've made this mistake countless times over the course of my life, but it's one of those things that I always end up seeing over and over again. It's a pattern that repeats itself. And one of the other reasons for that is the injury potential and the injury risk is much lower when you start out lighter initially and take that time to build that foundation. Whereas when you start too heavy right off the bat, you run into a lot more issues very quickly. So, for instance, my deadlifts week one might be 365 pounds, which, what is that? That's like nothing compared to a max of 640. That's nothing. It might be 240 pounds on bench, which compared to a max of 350 pounds, that's nothing. But this is kind of that realm of where you need to be at to ensure a proper peak and keep the injuries at bay. And it's just something that's so overlooked by people, and it's very hard to do. It doesn't make sense when you write it out on paper to a lot of guys. And you see lifters on social media, and you want to keep up with them, and you want to put up impressive lifts. But truly, the most boring lifts that you put up, the more boring your training, and that's going to result in the best progress. So it's not flashy, it's not exciting. Like these weeks of training in this range are not exciting. Like, nobody wants to post them up because nobody cares. Nobody's going to give you likes. It really bores people. But at the end of the whole thing, you're going to have way higher maxes. So it's one of those things that I'll still often make the mistake where I go a little too heavy early on. And inevitably, back pain or achiness, anything, something like that crops up. And it ego checks me to where I have to drop down and start very light. And then I just have a ridiculous peak. So that's something you really need to pay attention to. Are you simply going too heavy early on? And it's not something people talk about a lot of. But if your goal is strength and even hypertrophy, you will build the best base going very light early on, focusing on volume. Volume is going to be a huge integral part of packing on mass and getting stronger. And it's just one of those things that I need to hammer home so you guys realize that over and over. Like, I've seen it with my guys time and time again. It just goes the best when we start lighter and give ourselves room to work with. And there's way less missed lifts. There's more confidence that's built, things of that nature. So that's something to think about. As far as another thing I want to touch on, it is November 25th at the time of recording this video. So it is now over 4 years off anabolic steroids. And in that time, looking at the last 4 years, some things that I've achieved, which I think paint a better perspective of things that are doable from a drug-free standpoint. So you guys have obviously seen the old videos in the basement and at maxed out gym with the 900-pound deadlifts and the 770-pound squats and the 485 benches, and when I was walking around at 250, 260 pounds. And those videos are all well and good, but those were all in my 20s, and it just doesn't interest me now to be as strong as possible if I'm not also as healthy as possible. I'm 33 years old, guys. I have a family. What good is it for me to be crazy strong if I'm completely unhealthy, have no cardio base, and just feel terrible? That's ridiculous. That's reckless, if anything. So now, right now, I'm 219 pounds as of this morning. 219 pounds instead of 250, 260. I need to get some more blood work updated as well. But doing cardio roughly 2 days a week, running, and look like I said originally, looking back at some of the things that have been done, like I hit a 705 deadlift. It was hitched. It was at about 238, 237 body weight. I've hit 640 at a body weight of 217. Squatted 510 pounds bare knee, just in a belt. Squatted 573 pounds in sleeves. Benched 391 pounds at 237. And just recently benched 353 pounds at 217. So those are kind of numbers that you can look at that and be like, okay, that makes a lot more sense drug-free with a 500 test level, 500 nanograms per deciliter. That makes a lot more sense, and that's a lot more doable. Well, at the same time, being very, very lean and being able to have this cardio output where I can still run. Saturday, I ran just over 5 miles at an 8:07 pace on a very hilly course. It was over 400 feet of elevation gain. It's the best time I've hit on that. So I still feel like that cardio base is there. We got the strength. I did a 620 mile as well back in September. I'd like to get that under 6. But these are numbers that you can see and be like, okay, this is achievable. It's okay. I can achieve this where I can have this balance of being fairly heavy with good muscle, having decent numbers, and still having the cardio base. 138 half marathon, 138 and change. That's a 7:29 pace I hit last year in the half marathon. So I think I want to paint that perspective of what can be achievable when you're focusing on health, strength, and physique all at once. And that's the path I've gone down. That's why I'm so vigilant about blood work and ensuring I'm doing cardio to keep blood pressure in check. And, actually, another thing in terms of blood pressure, even with this healthier lifestyle, eating very clean compared to before, I still take the minimum doses of blood pressure medication to keep that in a very good range. So I'm taking 10 milligrams of olmesartan, which is an ARB, and I'm also taking 2.5 milligrams of amlodipine. And they work very synergistically where it really helps keep the blood pressure upon waking in that 105, 110 systolic over 70 range for diastolic. That's where I've tended to be at. And I just like to really keep that in check because a whole host of issues can come from high blood pressure as far as down the line. Strokes and all sorts of other stuff. So that's something I want to pay attention to more and more. And I know I'd be probably upper 120s, maybe 80, 85 without it. So I'm going to, err on the side of caution. I'm a heavier guy, 219 pounds, and I just want to keep that in check because it's one of those things that as you get stronger, you get heavier, blood pressure tends to go up. And I take that more seriously as well. I take all this stuff where it's we got to live it. We have to find that balance of overall health and just sustaining this lifestyle. So I want you guys to look at the big picture of everything. And I hope what I said originally about the training principle of going lighter, I hope that makes sense. Chime in with what you guys think. I know the channel's been a little inactive. There's been a lot going on. But I will keep rolling with things and try to give out the most helpful advice possible. That's what I want the channel to be about. I don't want it to be a bunch of gimmicks about we're gossiping about the fitness industry because really who cares? That doesn't affect any of us and it's ridiculous. So I want to make this how can I actually pass on lessons I've learned? How can we dial in our health, our fitness, our strength, and all sorts of stuff here? And, the Lord's blessed me. I feel like this could be a platform where I need to open up about my faith more. I'm in the Bible right now. I'm in 1 Kings, trying to work through the Old Testament. Never had actually read through the Bible, so working through that right now. Trying to deepen my faith and live it. Live it actually where I'm an example for others to possibly explore that and go down that road themselves. So God bless you guys. I hope you liked the video. Let me know what you want me to talk about, any subjects or anything like that. I really appreciate it.